So for this lesson today, we're going to start getting into some of our sheet metal skills. The first thing that we got to really know is how to safely work with sheet metal, especially in a shop and out on a job site. So really when it comes down to safety, it's just nothing more than just knowledge. You got to have knowledge, you got to have skills, and you got to kind of know what the heck you're doing when it comes to working with sheet metal. Having the correct professional attitude and care for your job is also a very important part when it comes to the safety of others and you on any sort of construction site. Sheet metal workers will become very familiar with a lot of the potential hazards that we deal with in the sheet metal trade. A lot of that comes with a lot of experience, but one thing that you will quickly find out is that sheet metal is very, very sharp. It's especially if you are not careful and really watching what you're doing when you're handling the metal, you can very easily get cut and get cut pretty bad. So you have to really make sure that you know how to handle your sheet metal. You need to know all of the potential risks that you have when you're dealing with it, as long as you are safe and know that you're wearing the correct gloves for protection. If you do not have gloves to be worn, you just simply have to learn how to simply hold the metal and do what you need to do with it without getting cut. Okay, so one of the big things that we talk about when it comes to sheet metal safety and job safety overall is OSHA. Okay, OSHA is really what's responsible for setting and enforcing all work safety standards on job sites and off job sites. So we need to know, as a employee and an employer, what those OSHA guidelines and standards are. Okay, but in general, employers are required to provide a place of employment free of known hazards likely to cause death or injury. Okay, employers must comply with safety and OSHA health standards, and employees are also required to comply with those standards. So when you are on a job site, if that job site requires you to have hard hats on, those hard hats have to be on. And those hard hats have to be on in the correct manner, not backwards, not sideways. They have to be worn correctly. If you are required to wear safety glasses, you need to do so. If you are required to wear face shields, gloves, whatever it is that's on that job site, you need to do it. OSHA can make visits to job sites and see what is going on. If there is any sort of violations that go on, obviously the employer, general contractor, can be fined. And if the violations are severe enough, OSHA can actually shut the entire job site down. Okay, so OSHA and safety is very, very important when it comes to not only sheet metal, but pretty much for the entire industry. Okay, we must wear our personal protective equipment, or better known as our PPE, and that includes our clothing, our hats, face shields, shoes, and any other items that are going to protect us from danger. Okay, PPE must be and must meet OSHA standards. Safety glasses have a OSHA rating on them. Your hard hats have an OSHA rating on them. Everything that we have on the job site is and must be OSHA approved, reinforced or steel sole, and slip resistant. Okay, steel toe shoes are going to protect you from falling or rolling objects. Reinforced or steel sole shoes will prevent penetration of any sharp objects that may be on the floor. Slip-resistant soles are going to protect that worker from any wet, slippery, or other hazardous surface. You never, ever want to wear any sort of sneakers, Crocs, sandals, God knows what else that people decide that they want to do that they may want to be stupid about. But you never, ever want to walk on a job site with anything like that. Okay, if the individuals that are running the job site are competent enough, your boss is competent enough, they would automatically throw you off the job site if you happen to show up on a job site like that. If OSHA was on the job site and saw you wearing sneakers, you would definitely be fined. Okay, gloves are worn by sheet metal workers for a lot of reasons. Okay, the big one is to protect us from any sort of metal splinters and rough edges. They're meant to protect us from any protruding screws or rivets. And we also wear them in extreme temperatures of the material. Now, when we are working with sheet metal in the middle of winter, that metal is going to get extremely cold. So we will be wearing gloves sometimes to handle that metal so that we don't get frostbite and other injuries. Okay, work gloves that we usually commonly use or are made of, they're either going to be canvas, leather, or rubber. Your safety glasses, okay, include traditional spectacles, goggles, and face masks. So in order for safety glasses to meet OSHA standards, those glasses must not shatter or otherwise break during testing. Okay, safety glasses are classified into either basic impact glasses or high impact glasses. Safety glasses always and must be worn whenever eyes are going to be exposed to a hazard. Much of the work done by sheet metal workers exposes the eyes to danger. So therefore, safety glasses are worn in this industry. When we are cutting metal, bending it, putting in place, we have a high risk of a piece of metal, as we're cutting it, maybe flinging off and hitting us in the eye. If we're working with the sheet metal above our head, something maybe in the rafters or a screw, a rivet, something has a potential of hitting us in the eye. You need to wear your safety glasses when you are working with sheet metal. Hard hats, those are also designed to protect the head from falling objects. Okay, some are also offer protection from electrical hazards. Okay, hard hats are worn whenever there's a danger of falling objects. Electrical conductors are exposed that might come in contact with the head. Okay, sheet metal workers standing on scaffolding or ladders to hang ductwork, so it can become a hazard to people working below them. So therefore, hard hats are going to be required. Now, as far as ladder safety, when it comes to sheet metal workers, you will be working on ladders. You're going to be working on lifts. You're going to be working on scaffolding to do your job. So we have several different types of ladders that we're going to deal with. We have our step ladders, our straight ladders, extension ladders. Okay, we have different types of ladders that they're made of: wood, metal, and fiberglass. The most common of the ladders that you are going to be working on is going to be your metal and your fiberglass. You will be dealing with step ladders. You will be dealing with straight ladders, dealing with 4-foot ladders, 6-foot ladders, 8-foot ladders, 10-foot ladders, 12-foot ladders, extension ladders, 40-foot extension ladders, high lifts, all sorts of stuff when you are dealing with sheet metal. Now, because metal and water conduct electricity, We never want to use metal or metal reinforced ladders where direct contact with an electrical power source is possible. Okay, so obviously when we are using a ladder, we want to make sure that we are looking around our surroundings to make sure that we're not putting the ladder in a puddle with live electrical wires overhead. We want to make sure that the ladders are safely secured and away from any sort of potential that can actually cause any sort of issues. Okay, so on this picture here, you actually have a couple of different ladders that you have here. So you have your straight ladder, which is nothing more than just a ladder. There's no extension point to it. It's not an A-frame step ladder like we see here. And here's your extension ladder. So all of our ladders that we deal with are UL approved before use on a job site. Okay, UL stands for Underwriter Laboratories, and that is an independent, not-for-profit product safety certification organization. Basically, when you go and purchase a ladder, the stamp is right on the side of it. That tells you that it's already UL approved. It's not necessarily a big to-do, but all of our ladders that you purchase have already most likely gone through this process, not unless it's a homemade ladder that somebody put together. Before using a ladder, you should do some of the following things. Obviously, you want to make sure that the ladder is in good condition. You don't want to position a ladder where it can come in contact with electrical lines or electrical equipment. Don't place a ladder in a doorway. If this is unavoidable, lock the door or have someone stand at the base of the ladder till the job is finished. Extension ladders must overlap your roof lines at least 3 feet above the roof line between your sections, and has to be properly tied off and secured so that it doesn't fall. You should always, when you're on a ladder, you want to make sure that you are facing the ladder and not walking backwards. Don't stand on the highest point of the ladder. Usually when you are staring at a extension ladder, there's going to be a little sticker that right here that says do not climb or stand on this rung. You definitely don't really want to be up on here. However, a lot of people do, but really if OSHA inspector came around and saw you standing on the very top rung of a 6-foot ladder, so to speak, you will probably get pulled aside. You might get fined. Definitely get in trouble of some sort. Okay, when you are using your extension ladders, usually the extension ladder feet can be adjustable for either a tread surface or your spiked surface. Usually you're going to have your extension ladder feet with the rubber treads facing down if you're going to be on pavement, concrete, some sort of solid surface. If you're going to put your extension ladder on grass or soil or some sort of really kind of not so sturdy surface, you are going to put them into the spiked surface where it's going to allow the ladder to actually dig into the ground to kind of give you a better grip so that the ladder doesn't slip on you. Okay, when we are putting up an extension ladder, you don't want to just simply manhandle the ladder. You want to simply walk it up as you see in this picture here. The guy is simply walking towards the building and walking the ladder so that it walks up, and then he can safely extend that ladder to the correct height and tie it off. Okay, scaffolding. You will deal with scaffolding on job sites, and this is going to be a lot when you're dealing with a lot of commercial and industrial construction sites. Ladders just may not simply be enough to get the job done, so you will sometimes have scaffolding that needs to be constructed. When it comes to scaffolding, it has to be made of a metal frame, and it's going to have wood or metal platforms to walk on. Using scaffolding near power lines must be carefully monitored. Because scaffolding is elevated and people will be standing on it, scaffolding must be secured and supported and constructed. You will also be dealing with scissor lifts. Okay, scissor lifts are often used in place of scaffolding. Okay, sheet metal workers are often using them on indoor jobs. Basic scaffolding rules also apply to scissor lifts. When you are using a scissor lift, you never want to move the scissor lift forwards, backwards, sideways, whatever, when the lift is extended. If you have to move a scissor lift from point A to point B, you need to drop the scissor lift down to the ground and then move it. Okay, the higher these lifts go, the higher the momentum and the potential of gravity will take place. These scissor lifts like to sway back and forth, left and right when they are up there. They are not necessarily a solid thing to use. They are only meant to be extended when the scissor lift is in place and not going to move. Okay, when working on scaffolding, follow some of the basic guidelines. Always follow all local, state, and federal codes regarding scaffolding. Make sure that all the guardrails are installed, your toe boards are installed, and screens are on the platform. Maintain the required distance from all power lines. Do not make makeshift ladders or use other devices on the scaffolding to increase its height. Use planks with a heavy enough to handle the load that's going to be placed on it. You will also come in contact with welding. Okay, welding is also used in sheet metal workers to fasten sheet metal pieces together, and that can also be very dangerous. When you are using a welder, you do not want to look at the light of the arc because that will hurt your eyes. Okay, light of the arc can cause sunburn or on exposed skin. Melting metal can create toxic fumes, so obviously if we are using a welder, we want to make sure that we are in a well-ventilated area. The high temperature of the spark can also create a fire. When welding, we want to make sure that we are covering all of our skin, including the neck and forearms. We never look at the arc with the naked eye because we can actually burn our retinas. Wear a helmet with a proper shade to protect the eyes from the light and spark. Don't weld metals containing cadmium, zinc, beryllium, or lead, as they can create toxic fumes. If absolutely necessary to weld these metals, a respirator is required, and always keep a fire extinguisher handy, especially if you're going to be welding next to some sort of fire, something that can easily catch fire. Soldering safety is used to join pieces of metal together or to prevent leakage in containers. Even though welding is more popular and more widely used, soldering continues to be a useful process in some applications. The tip of a soldering iron or copper can reach about 500 degrees, so we must handle soldering irons carefully. Don't handle the solder material until it is completely cooled. Working with chemicals, we are going to be dealing with a variety of chemicals in sheet metal work to clean off our surfaces, remove rusts, and to dissolve other substances. Okay, we have solvents, solutes, and fluxes. Okay, so solvents can be corrosive and can damage the skin on contact. Flux used in soldering can create harmful gases that must be properly ventilated. When dealing with chemicals, you want to keep in mind that they may be dangerous. So when we are dealing with chemicals, we want to make sure that they are stored properly and in the proper containers. We want to keep them in a safe area and lock them if necessary. You want to wear your proper PPE, your face shields, eye protection, so that we can avoid getting splashed chemicals on our skin or in our eyes. And if possible, we need to know the correct or the closest eye wash station or first aid kit in the event that we need it.